Hey guys, what's going on? It's Phil here from TechSmart, and today we're going to do a full comparison of the Galaxy S6 Edge versus the older Galaxy S5. So jumping right into the hardware on both of the phones, looking at the front of the S6 Edge, you have a 5.1 inch display that's curved on each side. The front-facing camera, as well as on the right-hand side of the device, you have a sleep-wake switch. Left-hand side, you have your volume rockers. On the top, an IR blaster and SIM card slot. On the bottom, you have your speaker, 3.5mm headphone jack, as well as your micro USB charging port. On the back, you have a 16 megapixel camera, two-tone flash, and heart rate monitor. The phone's made out of aluminum and glass. It's really nice. It has, like I said, these curved sides, so it makes it feel super thin. It has Gorilla Glass 4 on the back, which is very interesting, similar to the iPhone 4 and Nexus 4. The Galaxy S5 has a 5.1 inch display on the front-facing camera, has a sleep-wake switch on the right-hand side. On the left, you have your volume rockers. Right up top, you have your IR blaster and headphone jack. On the bottom, you have a USB 3.0 port, which works with micro USB 2.0 as well. On the back, you have your 16 megapixel camera, two-tone flash, and heart rate monitor. Now, this phone's made out of plastic and has a glass display on the front. The phone is IP67 water resistant, so you can actually leave it in, I believe, 3 meters of water for roughly 30 minutes and it'll be just fine. Now, they made quite an improvement to the specs this year around. The Galaxy S6 Edge has an octa-core Exynos 7420 chip, clocked at 2.1 gigahertz. It has the Mali T760 MP8 graphics, 3 gigabytes of RAM, as well as 32 gigabytes of storage with no microSD option available. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a quad-core Snapdragon 801 chip. It's clocked at 2.4 gigahertz. The last generation Adreno 330 graphics, 2 gigabytes of RAM, as well as 32 and 64 gigabytes of storage available with the option for up to 128 gigabyte micro SD card. Samsung went ahead and kept the same 5.1 inch display on both devices. However, the Galaxy S6 Edge has the higher resolution with 2560 by 1440. That packs 571 pixels in each inch of this display. It's still a Super AMOLED display with Gorilla Glass 4, which is actually going to be twice as durable as the Gorilla Glass 3 on the Galaxy S5. Super sharp, obviously being the high resolution and having over 100 more pixels per inch. It looks super crisp. I love AMOLED displays. They allow for super deep contrast and really dark blacks because it actually shuts off the display anytime it shows a black pixel. Both phones are running Android 5.0 Lollipop with TouchWiz on top. The software experience is pretty similar among both of the phones, so we're really just going to look at the key differences that the Edge does bring. So you have these curved sides to the display, obviously, if you haven't seen that already. And basically what that allows you to do is you have some extra software optimizations. So if the phone's laying face down and you have a contact calling you in, you can set up a custom colored bar that's going to run side to side so that you're notified of this person without actually hearing an audible tone difference. You'll see this color light up for them. Also, just when you're swiping in from different menus on the side, it's really convenient. Because the glass does curve over, it's super smooth and makes it's a seamless experience when you swipe around on the phone. Also, anytime there's a vertical list and you want to scroll, it makes scrolling a lot easier. So just having the curves on the sides definitely makes the software a lot nicer. Also, a nice addition is with the fingerprint scanner, since the Galaxy S5 does have one as well. You no longer have to swipe down like you did on the S5. You can just simply rest your finger on it, just like the iPhone's fingerprint scanner. It's really nice. Makes it a lot easier and it's a lot more accurate this time around. So pairing the similar software with the better specifications, obviously it's pretty easy to say that the Galaxy S6 Edge gives a better software experience here. Next up is cameras. Personally, this is probably my favorite feature on both of these devices because Samsung has really always had such a great camera on their phones. The Galaxy S6 Edge has a 16 megapixel sensor similar to the Galaxy S5. However, the S6 Edge has an f1.9 aperture, so it's a little bit wider, allowing in more light, so it's going to be better off in low light conditions. Both phones do 4K video recording at 30 frames per second. Now, as far as camera quality goes, I am going to give the slight edge once again over to the Galaxy S6 Edge. You're able to take photos a little bit quicker. You don't have to be as precise when you're taking them either. However, both phones do have outstanding sensors on them. Next up are benchmarks. So running Geekbench on both devices, the Galaxy S6 Edge scored 1139 on the single core score, as well as 4057 on the multi-core. The Galaxy S5 scored a lower 869 on the single core and 2489 on the multi-core. Looking at Antutu, Galaxy S6 Edge scored 58,691. Galaxy S5 scored almost less than half at 35,616. Now we went ahead and ran GFX Bench, and this was pretty interesting. The Galaxy S6 Edge scored a 699 at 11 frames a second, and then the Galaxy S5 actually scored higher at 792 at 12.8 frames a second. I'm not sure whether that's because the Galaxy S6 Edge uses these new graphics as opposed to the Adreno, which seems to be the chip that most manufacturers use. However, in real-world testing, I didn't notice a difference in the graphics performance, but it's interesting to see how it looks on benchmarks. And rounding up our comparison, we have battery life. So the S6 Edge rocks a 2600 milliamp hour battery. The Galaxy S5 has a slightly larger 2800 milliamp hour battery. I do think the Galaxy S5 is going to give you a little bit more battery life on it. Might be somewhat of a placebo effect because it is larger. However, just in my day-to-day use, I have had the device a year longer than I've had the Galaxy S6 Edge, and I had nothing to complain about as far as battery goes. And just like the Galaxy S5, the S6 Edge carries over the ultra power saving mode. So when you're down to just a few percent, you can flick this on, changes the screen to black and white, minimizes a lot of the radios in the phone, and really allows for the device to last a few more hours on just a few percent charge. So which one should you buy? The Galaxy S6 Edge comes in at roughly $300 with a new 2-year contract. The Galaxy S5, being that it's a year old, you can get it from $129 and lower depending on any promotions they're running. The S6 Edge comes in black, white, blue, and green. The S5 black, white, gold, blue. It's really a tough to consider. They're both outstanding phones from a spec standpoint, from performance, from camera. They're all pretty on par. I think the huge selling point here is the new design, and that's a big deal for me. Whether or not you think so is up to you, of course. However, there's also the Galaxy S6. So obviously this whole comparison, we've been talking about the Edge. Although if you don't want those two curves on the display, you can save $100 and you're getting all the same internals, the same camera, the same battery, everything, same display even. So it's really, there's a third phone in this mix. But if you have a Galaxy S5 now, I would say you're probably good to wait, just because you're probably not out of a contract, and I don't think this phone's worth the $700 whatever dollars off contract to do the upgrade. However, if you're trying to choose between the two, if you maybe want to save some money and get an S5, I do think you should spend the extra money and go for the S6 or S6 Edge. The hardware alone is enough to sell me on it, not to mention the faster camera, not to mention the updated specs, because you are going to have this phone for an additional year, 2 years, 3 years. It's going to wear better over time. It's not already a year old like the Galaxy S5. So yeah, I do think the Galaxy S6 is going to win in this case. However, like I said, if you're on an S5 right now, you don't have an upgrade, I do not think it's worth running out and buying the S6 or S6 Edge at full retail cost. Anyways, guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Check out all the other coverage we've done on the S6, S6 Edge, HTC One M9. All of our social links are in the description below. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at PhilTEspo. And I will see you guys next time. Later.